Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Let's get right to the topic. There's not going to be a lot of fluff here. This is an actual installation video. You'll notice I'm not sitting at the kitchen table. It's not an unboxing. I'm not going to lay everything out in the plastic bag it came in and say, this is great, you need to go buy it. Let's actually look at it. This is my diesel heater that I bought off of Amazon. It was on sale. It's a self-contained unit. And there's a very good reason why I bought the self-contained unit. Most of you know I live in south central Montana. In the wintertime, we can get up as low as 40 below. Last winter, we had 4 consecutive days here at the ranch. It was 40 below zero. 2 of the days, it got down to 40.8 below. That's not normal, usually 20 to 35 below, depending on how our summer, fall went. The reason I went with a self-contained unit is because of the cold temperatures. Now let me show you. There's an advantage to these self-contained units. Number one, easy setup and easy tear down at the end of your camping trip. Plug your hoses in, hook up your power supply, your exhaust system, and turn it on. Very simple. The main reason I got the self-contained unit, and I got the side-by-side because they're not tall and don't want to tip over, is this right here, the fuel. As you guys know, you get in cold weather and your diesel will gel. You get to 0, 10, 20 below, depending if you have 1 or 2 fuel, number 1 or number 2, you'll be in trouble. The reason I got this is when I get set up in the winter, I can run a recirc or a heat retriever off of this. I can run the hose into the inlet. I will install a 4-inch flange with a nipple sticking out that I can run my hose to. This is the inlet side to the heater, and when it's running, the discharge, the hot air comes out here. It's going to pull air in. You notice the quite large gap right here. I really like that because there are some vents on the bottom so you can bring fresh air in for the combustion chamber air intake. This is going to draw warm air from the camper back through, but if it's 20 below, it ain't going to be too warm. But you'll see a lot of that warm air will escape and warm up the inside of this, keeping my fuel from gelling. And that's what I like about the self-contained units. Just let you know, I bought everything with my own money. I don't get sponsorship or anything, so I just got one that was on sale. It was cheap and it fits the bill. So easy setup, and the ability, hopefully we'll test that this winter once I get out in the field when it's 20 below, the ability to keep my fuel from gelling. Now let's talk about power. And one of the things I want to bring up right away is 90% of all problems these heaters have is insufficient DC power to the power input port. They have a glow plug. Startup and shutdown, it sends full power to the glow plug. It's going to pull anywhere from 130 to 150 watts. A cigarette lighter plug is not going to work. Most of your cigarette lighter plugs, such as this, are 6, 8, or 10 amps. Most of them are 8. As you know, 8 and 12, 118 watts. That is not enough. Or 116 watts, whatever it is. Do the math. And you don't have enough. You will throw electrical error codes. Now, this particular heater came with a power brick. That's another reason why I got it. This power brick is 12 volts at 12 amps. That gives me 153 plus watts, which ensures that I'll have enough power to run the glow plug at startup, and in the shutdown procedure, the glow plug also gets hot in order to clean out the combustion chamber and prevent carbon fouling. So very important. Okay, you might be asking, what am I going to do when it rains? Well, one of my plans for this winter, and when I start doing inclement weather, is I'm going to do another penetration right here. It'll be a waterproof, I'm thinking probably an Anderson connection. I will replace the DC input to the unit with a waterproof Anderson and make a small cable that'll plug in. On the other side, I'll be able to run a cable to my power supply, whichever one I need to use, or after I get my solar and my onboard lithium iron phosphate battery set up, right into a 12 volt, 12 amp circuit. One last thing I want to add concerning the power. You can also directly wire DC power into here. And these are just 12 volt DC, you got positive and the negative. This is the cable they supply for you. This is too light of a gauge, and with this length or any longer cable, you're going to have voltage or amp loss. Voltage is push, so you'll have voltage loss. These are way too thin. You don't want to use these. If you are going to use the power pole connections, you need to go up to 10 or 12 gauge. Now, one thing that I did find as a pleasant surprise on this unit was this cable did have a small label. It said supply voltage 12 volts greater than 12 amps. Most heaters won't let the buyer know, and there's not a lot of detail on power requirements in the documentation that comes with this. So this is no good. It's too thin, and a lot of people, especially with rooftop tents, which I don't care about, they run a 10, 12, 15 foot line of 14 or 16 gauge wire, and you have voltage drop, and then they wonder why the heater keeps throwing error codes and looking it up, lack of voltage. They check their battery and say, well, I've got 12.8 volts. You got to have the proper wire size. It's just like hooking up solar. Do your calculations on your volts, amps, watts, find out what your power draw is, and upgrade your wire accordingly. Okay, let's talk about what you need for spare parts. I highly recommend that from the manufacturer that you purchased your unit from, to get a couple of spare glow plugs and a couple of spare temperature indicators, temperature elements that are attached to the top of the firebox to make sure you're not having overheating problems. So your temperature elements, they're real cheap, easy to plug in. Get it from the same manufacturer, so you just got to plug it in to the wiring harness and keep them with you, with your heater, in your camper, in your tow vehicle, somewhere. Keep the spare parts, keep them with you when you're out. If it's 20 below and you're out and you lose a glow plug during startup or when you need to fire it up, you're going to be cold if you don't have an emergency backup heat source to get you through the night. So I highly recommend spares. Make sure the glow plug and the heat temperature element. Okay, let's take a real quick look at how easy this is to set up. I just set everything on my storage tray on the front of the camper. I'm going to turn around, set this puppy up, and then we'll go over the details of the equipment and the material that I use to make this go so well, so easy. You know what that is? Quick disconnect RV sewer. 3 to 4 inch reducer. And yes, I know this needs to be horizontal or pointed down so that it can drain condensation. I'm not too worried about it. For what I've been using it for the last couple of weeks, it runs a couple hours at night. I pull this off and disassemble it when I'm breaking down camp so I don't have any buildup. But I am going to go down through the bottom and do a semi-permanent exhaust system underneath my storage tray. I'm all set up. Let's move the camera to the front so you can see how easy this thing is to fire up. Okay, as you just saw, it took about 2 minutes to get this thing installed. This particular model comes with a remote. I like it. I've tried it out. It does work from the inside. I can turn it on, off. I can increase the temperature or decrease. It doesn't have a thermostat. I believe this one may have a thermostat in the control panel. I don't care. I'm not going to rip this out, splice a bunch of wires, do another penetration so I have this on the inside. If I get cold, I'll hit the plus button. If I'm too hot, I'll hit minus. If setting 1 is too much, which I ran into last weekend, I'll turn it off. If I get cold, I'll turn it on. Let's look at how easy this is.
Start heating.
There's the remote, so you know I'm not messing with it. While it's starting up, let's move the camera over to the power station so you can see how many watts. You look right now, 118, 125. That's the glow plug, 125, 130. So we're slowly going up as it's preheating the burn chamber. 140 watts, 139, 141. If you were running 12.8 off the cigarette lighter at 8 amps, you would get an error code. The heater would shut down and say insufficient power. And there you go. You hear the pump just kicked on. The burner is getting fuel. The flame is starting. I'm going to walk over and check the watts. $145 watts. So you're going to need 12 amps to get this thing going. While it's firing up, let's take a look at inside the camper. Yep, and I've got warm air coming through. Fantastic. You see the pump's really pumping fast now. You can hear it. We're currently running on setting 1. Let's see what our watts are. Setting 1, and it's pulling 16 watts. Okay, let's check some temperatures. Non-reflective, reflective. My temperature gun does not have adjustability for emissivity, so we're just going to have to wing it. I think this paper will help. 108, 116. I don't know how accurate that is because of the reflective material. See, that's showing 73, and that is extremely hot. I have welder's hands, and I'm pulling back from it. So let's check the black part, 116, 111. If I go onto the paper, I'm up to 180, 183. And that's on setting 1. Let's take a look inside. All right, my wall is 98 degrees, 102, 97. Now let's shoot the vent. Look at that, 188, 176 degrees coming in, but it's not a massive flow. But it's enough to cook you out. Plus the ambient temperature is real high. Okay, let's do a quick rundown on some bullet points on what we just covered. Adequate power. You got to have enough amps to fire it up. Ease of install. I pull it out of the back of the Jeep, plop it in, hose, power, turn it on, and I'm done. Proper use of the exhaust system. Yes, I'm pointing up. Yes, it can build up condensation down there, but for the minimal amount of use that I'm going to use it until this winter, it's fine because that gets disassembled every morning. Maintaining heat inside the unit to keep my fuel from gelling when it's 35 degrees below zero. And we'll accomplish that with taking warm air from the camper there and putting it right here. One of the problems that I've seen a lot of people talk about is they'll get an error code, and that error code is an overheating code of the heater motor itself, not the electric motor, the engine, firebox, burn box, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people will run the 3-inch, which is what this is. They'll run 10, 12, 15 feet of 3-inch hose up to their rooftop tent or somewhere way over there by their tow vehicle, and they get overheating codes due to the fact they'll have a lot of 90s, a lot of twists, the 3-inch hose, that'll build up back pressure, not allowing the fan to get the heat off of it. You get an overheating code. In a preemptive strike, what I decided to do was immediately go 3 to 4, and then where I tie into the heat register or the bulkhead penetration, back to 3. There's not a lot of restriction here. There's not a lot of restriction here. I have twisted this. I have made S's out of it. I even add another 8-foot section to it and did a test, and I had 0 overheating, even with ambient outside temperatures being 90 degrees and the heater set on high. And one final comment. I cannot hear the fuel pump inside the camper. With this setting raw on the metal tray, I can hear it a little bit, and I can hear the fan motor, but I have one of those closed cell foam knee pads I bought at the local tool outlet that sells stuff super cheap, and I set the heater on top of that. It eliminates all mechanical noise from inside. So I'm not going to worry about upgrading the fuel pump to one of the ultra quiet fuel pumps or wrapping it in foam. You can hear it here. I hope you can hear it. But I cannot hear it inside. Okay, now I'm going to slide in some footage of what you all want to see, and that's the actual installation of the bulkheads and what I used for my permanent bulkheads. As you see, these are Valterras. They're very popular. You can get them on the internet, Amazon, eBay, whatever. Don't go to their site though, because with shipping they'll be 60 bucks, and that's ridiculous. Voila. Now I'm going to throw in a couple of clips of showing the penetrations that I did. I used a 3 1/4 inch hole saw. Once I bolted them up, they're sealed. I used the Loctite product to seal them up, and also the insert from the inside I sealed totally, and I'll slip some pictures in there. Let's look at a little bit of footage of how to drill holes through the wall of your brand new camper. Okay, let's close out. I covered just about every detail on this installation and proper operation of one of these heaters. One more thing I want to add is don't unplug it when you're done. Hit the off button either on the control panel or on the remote. It will go through a shutdown sequence where it will stop adding fuel, the glow plug will come on, and the fan will ramp up. Any residual fuel in the burn box will be burned off, and that will eliminate or greatly reduce any carbon buildup inside. People talk about having these heaters get carboned up. More often than not, it's operator error. Well, it's nice and warm, I'm done, and they jerk the plug out of it and it shuts down, and you have a real rich air fuel mixture inside a hot box that clings to the wall, starts to carbon up. That takes a lot of power. That goes back to our 140, 150 watts. Startup and shutdown takes a lot of power. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I tried to cover just the key points. I would like to ask that if you enjoyed this content in this video, please subscribe to the channel, notifications, thumbs up, leave a comment. Nobody sponsored this video. H Calorie didn't sponsor, Jackery didn't sponsor. I bought the heater on sale. It was the right price, and it's going to allow me to get out this winter. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and checking it out. Leave a comment if I forgot anything. We covered installation, the penetration in the walls, the hose, why we went 3 to 4, power supply, keeping the diesel warm, isolating the heater with a foam rubber mat to eliminate pump noise inside the trailer. If I forgot anything, if there's anything else you'd like to know, please let me know in the comments and I'll cover it. I'm getting very familiar with these heaters. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.